For our sixth ranked game, we've got divisional rivals. That could be a really fun game, or it could all go sideways. Who knows? Welcome to Summer School Club Fantasy's best ball podcast, streaming exclusively on YouTube. I am your host, Austin Amandolia, and with me, as always, is Matt Record. This is another one of our CRAM sessions. If you have been watching these all the way through, first off, bless you. Second off, I'm so sorry that you've had to hear me say the same thing over and over again during this intro. Like, I get it, okay? We are now breaking down our sixth favorite matchup in week 17. So make sure you like and subscribe so that you get our top 5 of the week 17 matchups, because those will be coming up soon. Our sixth ranked matchup involves America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, versus the Philadelphia Eagles. And I will put my Atlanta fandom aside for this matchup and be an impartial contributor to this episode. Some basic stats and betting lines. So we have a 47.0 over under. That ranks third out of the 16 games in week 17. So lots of upside to be had. Dallas are 2-point road underdogs in this matchup. Yes, this game is being played indoors in Philly, which is good. We love a nice dome game. These teams kind of have some tough matchups in weeks 15 and 16. Their combined over and under for those weeks are 180.5, which ranks 10th out of 16, so it's a little bit under average. The ADP of the first player off the board is the 102, and he's kind of been the consensus number 2 pick off the board in CeeDee Lamb. We gave this game a rating of 6.3 out of 10. Matt, tell us the story of how this matchup goes well.
Yeah, obviously both of these offenses are projected to be really, really good playmakers all over the place. Kind of like our last game, if you've been streaming these. These defenses also could be very good, especially the Cowboys defense. So the way this works out, the interdivisional rivalry plays out so that, one team knows the other team, which means they know how to beat those defenses. Dak is slinging it all over the place. Jalen Hurts kind of regresses back to his norm, runs all over the place, is dynamic. So, there's a reason why this is the third highest over-under game, right, in all of these matchups, because these offenses are that good. So both teams are still in a divisional race. The quarterbacks are healthy and playing really well. I'm really excited for this game.
Yeah, I think it could be a really great matchup in week 17. It's one I'll be definitely looking out for to watch. And I'm with you. The way this game hits the ceiling, first off, Dallas just continues to do what they do during the regular season, right? Like there's been all sorts of stress about the Dallas Cowboys this offseason because of the way they went out in the playoffs. They win like 12 games every year. It's pretty impressive. And they have a great offense. They can do it again. And Philadelphia bounces back from their downward spiral that happened towards the end of last year, which I think is really feasible. They got a new offensive coordinator in there. They are probably going to have to take a little bit of a different mentality with a restructured offensive line, but I think that they can easily bounce back. The weapons are just too good in that offense. I have a hard time believing that this offense doesn't bounce back. But that's why we need to talk about how this matchup goes poorly, because we need to be prepared for the downside and make sure that we're not only drafting Dallas and Philadelphia teams. Matt, how does this matchup go poorly?
Yeah, anytime two divisional rivals play, weird things happen. Again, you have so much more opportunity to know your opponent, right, and their tendencies. So this game can go poorly if the defenses live up to their hype, right? So both defensive lines, just make life really difficult for Prescott and Jackson there, or not Prescott and Jackson.
Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts. Ooh, yeah. So there's a chance that this is one of those, again, 14-10 games is just down and dirty, and just doesn't live up, especially where you're going to have to draft all of these guys. You need them to not only just be, a wide receiver 1 or 2, like you need him to be like the wide receiver 1, especially this time of year, right? So there's a chance that it's like just not as high scoring game as we need for these ADPs to pay off in this week. I think they will get you to where you need to go, but in this week in particular.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point that, these players are really likely to get you to advance to the playoffs, to get you to advance maybe even to the finals. I mean, Dak Prescott was one of the most rostered players among finalist teams last year and underdog, as was CeeDee Lamb. And so it's very likely that these teams help you get there, but they do have stout defenses, and we have seen them have weird down offensive weeks. Even Dallas last year, even though they were rolling most of the season, when they weren't, it was stark. They had some weeks they lost games, right? They didn't just win all the way through the regular season. They did lose some games, and it was ugly at times. So it's definitely something to be considering as you're drafting these teams. I'm definitely drafting them a decent amount, but I'm also making sure to maintain a portfolio mindset and target some other matchups. Plus, there are 5 more games that we have ranked ahead of this one, so it gets even better from here, from our perspective. So let's talk about some of our favorite stacks and correlations. Matt, you said before we started recording, it's hard to not stack these teams, but which ones are your favorite ones to go after?
Yeah, there are just so many good options. I really like the Dallas stack here because if you are lucky enough to get CeeDee Lamb, again, you have to have pick number 2 really to get him, or pick number 1 if you really feel confident in him. Assuming you don't have that, right? It's very easy to get the other Dallas stack that I really like because Dak Prescott's still going off the board as QB9. I don't exactly know why he's still going off board all the way at QB9, but he is. So you can wait a little bit on QB and get him, and then get yourself Jake Ferguson, who's going off the board as tight end 9, who was the most targeted tight end in the red zone. It might just be all pass catchers in the red zone all year last year. He still has the same quarterback, so I don't expect that to change. And then Brandon Cooks, which is the second Dallas wide receiver going off the board, all the way at wide receiver 57. Like, yes, CeeDee Lamb is a monster. He gets all of the volume, but other people have to catch balls in this offense. Prescott proved last year that he can support all these people. So you can invest not a whole lot of draft capital and get just an insanely, to me, tasty stack.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. And if you want to hear more about Dak Prescott being a great quarterback for best ball, you should go check out our How to Draft Quarterbacks episodes, where he was a big topic of conversation because of how important he was to best ball lineups last year. For me, some of my favorite stacks, I do actually really love the Philadelphia side of this. And I love being able to get, honestly, if you start out with CeeDee Lamb, it's really easy to get Devontae Smith as well. So you get that correlation right away, and then bring it back with Jalen Hurts a round or 2 later. You are paying some premium picks for some of those players, so you do need them all to hit their ceiling. But I am a fan of that. I love having Jake Ferguson in there. A receiver that I think is going a little bit under the radar on the Philadelphia side that I am a fan of, though, is their wide receiver 3, who is so far down the board that it is hard to find him, frankly. Did I miss him as I was scrolling? I don't think so. Their wide receiver 3 is a rookie, and gosh, this was one of the rookies I love, and now I'm forgetting his name. Johnny Wilson.
Johnny Wilson, wide receiver 99.
Wide receiver 99. Going off the board. Oh, he's wide receiver 114. It's even worse, or even better, depending on your perspective. Going off the board, his ADP is 215.7. He's not being drafted, which just takes us right into our next topic. Best value. I'm just going to go ahead and steal this one first. It's Johnny Wilson. Best value. I think, look, they probably will play a decent amount of 11 personnel because they have Kellen Moore there to run the offense. And Johnny Wilson, he's also an interesting player because he's like, yeah, he's a receiver, but he's huge. He's like a tight end. And so it's this interesting way where Philadelphia can play 11 personnel, quote unquote, but it's more like 12 personnel, getting some bigger bodies in the field, which I think is going to be great for a team that loves to run the ball the way they do. So I love taking Johnny Wilson just towards the end of a draft with your last pick, just to see what happens. Matt, what about you? Who's your best value at ADP?
So the best value to me is Brandon Cooks, a wide receiver 57, but we've already talked about him. So I'm going to go a different route and say A.J. Brown at wide receiver 6. You know me, I love talking about tiers of players. To me, there are in the tier 1 of wide receivers, so wide receivers I clearly like above the rest. There are 6 guys. And the fact that if you can wait, it'll take a first round pick to get him anyway. But if you are at a point in your draft where you can get AJ Brown as your wide receiver 1 at wide receiver 6, I think that puts you such a leg up on some of the people right before you, because you're gonna be able to get a better player on the way back. than they're going to be getting. And I think you have a guy that has proven, if Jalen Hurts, stays healthy and, beats the guy, who could be the wide receiver 1 at the end of the year overall, getting him at wide receiver 6. So always pay attention to those tiers, and don't shy away from people like AJ Brown.
Yeah, I agree. I really love this too because Kellen Moore, he was in Los Angeles last year. Keenan Allen had a huge year, was utilized as a nice wide receiver 1, targeted often. He was in Dallas before. CeeDee Lamb was also utilized in that role. So I like the idea of Kellen Moore coming and just utilizing AJ Brown all the time, getting him all sorts of targets. But who is our biggest trap? Who is your biggest trap for this matchup, Matt?
Oh boy, do I love all these people. I guess I'll go Saquon Barkley, going off the board as running back 6. He's had some injury risks in the past. We know that Jalen Hurts loves to run the ball. I mean, the tush push, they are claiming the tush push. They're not going to do as much, if at all, this year. We'll see. It was so successful. I know Jason Kelsey's not around, and he was a big part of why he was so successful. But still, I'm just scared at that running back 6 draft capital for someone that has historically been the guy on an offense, right? The Giants haven't had many other playmakers, so he gets all the volume, versus this Eagles team has, I always say, a bevy of options. So I'm finding I end up getting Saquon if he just falls to me, but I'm not actively going out and trying to get him.
Yeah, I think I've drafted him one time. I also am feeling nervous about Saquon Barkley this year just because I don't think he's going to be utilized as much as he was in New York. He's in a much better offense now. They don't need to rely on him the same way. For me, I think the trap is Rico Dowdle, who is coming off the board as the 2nd running back for Dallas. And I think the good thing is that ADP agrees with me. They have Ezekiel Elliott going ahead of Rico Dowdle. But I think Elliott's the reason that Rico Dowdle is a trap at this point. Like, I just see them using Elliott as the red zone back. And I think he's going to get the touchdowns. He'll get those opportunities. And I think that'll end up solidifying him as the running back you want in best ball on Underdog Fantasy. So what is your biggest question mark about this matchup in these teams?
Yeah, it's on the Eagles side. It's like, which Eagles team are we going to get? Because the beginning of last year was exactly what we thought we were going to get the entire year, just a dominant team. Then they kind of collapsed. And, sometimes you can't, no matter how many times you shower, that stank doesn't come off. So I'll be very interested to see what Jalen Hurts looks like in this seemingly penultimate year. I know it's not, but like it seems like a critical time to be like, are you the guy or not?
Yeah, I like that. For me, it's going to be, can Dallas make it happen the entire season? Because last year it was the Dallas-Detroit matchup that ranked 2nd out of these rankings for us. And I loved that matchup. I had some lineups with it. I had Dak Prescott as my number 1 quarterback, made it to the playoffs. And then week 15, they tanked for just 1 week and I was out. And so to me, I'm like, can you keep it up? Can you make it all 17 weeks? Get me all the way to the finals this year? I think there's a good chance the matchups for Dallas are easier this year. Speaking of some other teams to target, if you're targeting these 2 teams, Dallas plays the Carolina Panthers in week 15. See, I said it was easier. And they play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in week 16, which, if you've been watching these, you will know that Carolina and Tampa Bay play each other in week 17. If not, go back, check out that Carolina Tampa Bay video, because this is a great set of teams to target together. You get a lot of correlation just by targeting 3 different teams. Philadelphia, on the other hand, they play Pittsburgh in week 15 and Washington in week 16. So I don't like their matchup as much in week 15 because that Pittsburgh defense is usually pretty stout. But on the Washington side, that might be one of the worst defenses in the league this year. So that's pretty exciting for Philadelphia. That is going to be all for this episode. Before you go, a reminder to hit subscribe, turn on those notifications, like the video, and look out for our next episode where we are now to the top 5 of our week 17 matchups. For Matt Record, I'm Austin Amandolia. This has been Summer School, and until next time, remember, defense wins championships, offense wins fantasy football, and best ball makes money. See you next time.